Testing.
Thank you. Today is Monday, January 30th, and we will call this meeting to order at 5:31 p.m. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Agenda item number 2 is school committee member introductions, and we'll start with Ms. Scott.
Hello, Linda Scott, Lewiston City Council Representative.
7.
Megan Hurd, Ward 6.
Ashley Medina, Ward 5.
Tanny Whitlow, Ward 4.
Elizabeth Eames, Ward 3.
Janet Bowden, Ward 2.
Megan Parks at large.
Chair Lang, Superintendent.
Karen Paquette, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3 is the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that members would like removed? Seeing none, the consent agenda is adopted. Agenda item number 4, public input. Members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on non-agenda items now and on agenda items later. Comments that pertain to staff, personal matters, or student issues should be directed to the superintendent or appropriate staff member of Lewiston Public Schools. Public comments shall be directed to the school committee and be brief, not repetitive, and related to the matter at hand. Before starting, please state your name, address, and affiliation to Lewiston Public Schools. Is there anyone that would like to speak tonight? Seeing none, we will move along. Agenda item number 5 is to recognize Lewiston Public Schools staff and students.
I'll ask Principal Charlotte Johnson to the podium. Charlotte's recently married, sorry, to do a brief introduction and recognize a couple of folks that are really doing a lot of good things with our students.
Good evening. So I'm here to recognize Eliza and Diana. You guys can come up if you want. This is Eliza, and she works with McMahon. She's from Food Corps, and she comes and works with our staff and our students in our gardens. And Diana is our STEM teacher, but she also does a lot of great work with our garden. And they're going to do a presentation shortly just to show you all the great things that are happening at McMahon. But it's great to see that they've tied in a lot of their work with our academics and SEL goals. And so our students and teachers are really benefiting and taking advantage of what they have to offer. And in addition to that, they've done a lot of family engagement activities. Last year, we had a family night that included some garden activities. We have one coming up in February on the 16th. And Eliza and Diana have both been leading that. So we really appreciate their hard work and dedication to McMahon.
Thank you. And you ladies are number 6. So if you want to come back up, you can do the Garden to Farm School presentation.
Mike. Okay. My name's Eliza and I'm a Food Corps service member at McMahon. I've been there last year as well as this year. And I'm here to talk to you about our awesome garden and farm to school programming. And to start off, just thank you for having me. Thanks for the time and thanks for the work that you all do every day to serve our school communities. I know it's that big picture work that makes it possible for my little program to grow and thrive. So thank you. And I want to get us kicked off by looking at some research. I think we all see that photo of a cute kid with a carrot and we're like, so sweet, so adorable. But garden programming is really a lot more than that. And there's some really promising research to back it up, especially thinking about some of the behavioral issues that our children are facing after as we come out of the pandemic. So simply spending time outside can reduce the symptoms of ADHD in children. Physical activity can help children with anxiety and depression and positively affect learning outcomes. Putting your hands in soil may even boost the brain's serotonin. I know it boosts my serotonin. And studies of school gardens report a lot of different benefits, including science achievement, changes in food behavior, and social behaviors. And then nutrition education through school gardening specifically has been shown to increase elementary schoolers' knowledge, preference for, and consumption of fruits and veggies. So some pretty exciting stuff. And I want to also get us grounded in a brief history of Food Corps in Lewiston. So Food Corps is a national nonprofit focused on getting kids access to nutritious meals in schools. And we have been one of the first sites in Lewiston. They've been here since the beginning, so about 12 years. And in Lewiston, we're based out of St. Mary's Nutrition Center, which you may know as Lots to Gardens. They've done a lot of work in community food access and education for over 20 years in Lewiston. And our goal as those two organizations is to build sustainable garden and nutrition education program that reaches every child in Lewiston, which is a really big dream. And we are well on our way there. The Food Corps model is to bring in a service member like me, have someone full-time at a school providing that extra capacity and boost to really get a program up off the ground. And then it's up to the school to really take that work and run with it. And that allows Food Corps to continue to reach other schools and other districts and continue that impact. So we had service members at Longley, at Martell, and at Connors after the merger. I pulled up some old photos from the Longley School Garden back in the day. And that has turned into the beautiful school garden and garden educator position at Connors. And then McMahon, we've been there for 6 years, and this is actually the last year of Food Corps partnership. They're graduating in the spring. And then we've been at Montello for 2 years, and we're excited to try to move on to other schools in our district. So the heart of the program at McMahon is really our outdoor and hands-on lessons. And I'm just going to throw some numbers at you to get a sense of scope. So last year we had 9 homeroom classes participate and 3 after school groups for 204 students total. This year we've had 17 homeroom classes participate and 2 after school groups for 256 students. And we are only like halfway through the year. And I want to take a note just before. I'm going to show you a bunch of different lessons and activities we do with different grade levels next, but I want to talk a little bit about how I think about garden education, because I think people get confused sometimes and think we're just teaching kids how to garden, but that is not the best argument for a school garden. The way I think about it, the school garden is really a container for experiential learning and for hands-on learning. And I think you can take any topic, any concept, and bring it outside and make it real for students. So it's a tool to reinforce what they're learning in science, in math, in language arts, in library, in social studies, their SEL work. Like, we can take it all and make it real and applied for them. And hopefully you'll see some examples of that. So with pre-K, we're really focused on sensory activities, getting outside, motor skills. So here's an example of a scavenger hunt we had with students connecting those images to things that they find in the garden. And then also an apple taste test we had where students tried 3 different kinds of apples and actually were able to use those kid-safe knives we have and work on their motor skills and chop them up. Anecdotally, I find that students are much more likely to try something new if they had their hands involved somehow in the process of preparing that. And so that was really exciting. We had some students try apples for the first time. First grade, this series of lessons has a really beautiful arc. We got some donated seedlings. The first graders planted them. They learned about the names of the different plant parts. They were able to label them on a diagram, learn about their functions. Then we harvested them, made them into a salad. And, cooking is a great way to work on teamwork, communication, following directions. With older grades, a lot of science connections as well. And then we took that salad and learned about the different colors in it and the way the different colors help our body and made that nutrition connection. In fourth grade, we're doing a ton of cooking. We've been doing this Taste the World project with Mrs. Dennis's class, connecting to their geography curriculum. So we're making a dish from every continent, as well as all the 5 regions of the US. And they're writing all that down and taking notes on it. And they also just did their fractions unit this winter, and little did they know they had been doing fractions since September. With 6th grade, we're really focused on math and science connections. So they put their math skills, finding perimeter and area and volume to use this fall, helping me calculate things for the garden. They also helped take soil samples, which we're sending off to UMaine, and they've learned all about soil nutrition, and they're going to help me analyze those results and choose what soil amendments we need to put in the garden to grow the plants that they want to grow this spring. Okay, so that's it for like our homeroom day-to-day stuff. I'm now going to take you through a couple other aspects of our program. I hope you all know by now about our 21st Century Cooking Club, because we sent Alan off to win the Farm and Seed to School competition, and that was a really amazing experience. And he had been in our cooking club for a couple of years. The cooking club at McMahon is a really strong program. We're really proud of it. The other 6th grade students in Alan's group helped him pick the recipes, trial them, taste test them, give feedback on what would work in a school kitchen, what kids would eat, and that really helped lead us to success in that competition. We get kids K through 6, hands-on cooking, trying new foods, learning the basics of nutrition, and using some of that produce from the school garden. We have up here a salsa that was made this fall with some of those ingredients that the kids had grown. We've also been doing some really big grant-funded renovations in our garden. So between this year and last, we were awarded over $15,000 in grant money to support our program. Some of our funders are up there in yellow, as well as some of our in-kind donations down there in the blue. And we're really lucky in Maine to have a ton of local philanthropic organizations, nonprofits, and local businesses that are really eager and excited to support this work and to be involved. And so we got a bunch of wood chips blown into our 2 garden spaces. We're building new garden beds. And our idea is to really take it from just a garden space to a real outdoor classroom that is accessible, that is beautiful, that has everything that teachers and students need to learn and to teach outside. We also had a serviceberry grove donated by Retrius, and some 4th graders planted that. So we'll have edible native berries for many years to come, we hope. The LA Children's Fund helped us get a new mobile cooking cart, so that enables us to take produce directly from the garden and use it in nutrition and cooking classes in any classroom in the school. We also have a new hydroponic stand we just got last week. Diane and I were setting it up, and that is going to connect to some of our STEM curriculum. We also do all-school taste tests, which are super fun. We follow the Maine Department of Education's Harvest of the Month program. So they feature one Maine grown or produced product every month. And we work really closely with the school nutrition staff to prepare little samples for the entire student body. It's a big celebratory event during lunch, and students often feel the courage to try something new when they're surrounded by their peers, by trusted adults also sampling this item. And then, of course, they love to vote on whether they liked it or not. And then, as Charlotte mentioned, we've also been focused on family engagement. I think the garden is a really awesome space to invite family and community in to the school and to share in, diverse food traditions and growing traditions. And we had a wonderful family night in the garden last spring where tons of families came through and they helped lay down that first layer of wood chips. There was also a story walk and a live read aloud and math and literacy connections, just a ton of stuff all built around the garden. And then you may have seen Charlotte and her beautiful family in the Sun Journal. There were some photos from our garden work day in the fall where some family and community helped to build our new garden beds for those renovations. So that's it for me. That was a lot. And I have a few other people from our school. I think Diana, Jay, and Melissa are here to just offer from a few other perspectives, and then I'll wrap us up with one more slide. Go for it. Hey everyone, I'm Diana Krzyzewski. I'm a STEM teacher at McMahon. Eliza has provided us with plenty of facts that are important in understanding the direction of gardening and education. We are grateful to have food course and St. Mary's Nutrition Center blooming food and garden interest to our students, as you saw in these photos. I'm fortunate to have a hydroponic growing stand in my classroom. The students are always asking questions like, what is this weird thing? How does it work? And thanks to Eliza and her work, we're excited to get our seedlings in and get the students involved. I've also been a teacher for 21st Century during the summer program and throughout the school year. I have seen how excited students get to be outside in the garden and picking the snap peas or taste testing mint leaves. They also love making food. They get to explore different types of recipes around the world, as was mentioned in the presentation as well. And when children are involved in the growing process, they're more likely to try different foods too, which can increase to healthier eating habits. And we all know, again, how important hands-on activities are. That's one of the best ways to teach students. It's one of the reasons kids love STEM. Eliza mentioned a list of incredible benefits for our students. Of course, the importance of physical development and sensory stimulation. We are educating future graduates. What Food Corps is doing could impact kids' future personal or professional lives. And who knows, by educating these students on nutrition and how plants work, we could be educating a future scientist who will make an environmental impact, or a botanist who will be experimenting on Mars, or even the next Gordon Ramsay. I'm excited for others to experience what Food Corps brings to our students and community. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jay Rich. I am a teacher of multilingual students at McMahon. And like Eliza and Diana have said, all students love the garden, enjoy going out there. All students, especially those who are multilingual, have an opportunity to practice their English language skills through our gardening program. Students take lessons on how to grow and take care of plants. They discuss their learning with others, and are also encouraged to write and read about their learning experiences. My second and third grade students especially love the garden and discussing what they're learning in class. We talk about the foods being grown or that they've tasted that month. We practice using descriptive language and describe the experience with others. Not only are students learning about life cycles and how to take care of a garden, but they also have opportunities to taste the food. Eliza works with our cafeteria staff to provide taste tests for students during lunchtime. And sometimes they're tasting familiar food, but most of the time they're trying new to them foods, an essential experience in early childhood. Thanks to Eliza and our friends at Food Corps, students have the opportunity to continue to take part in hands-on gardening work through their time at McMahon. The team has developed digital and print lesson resources for teachers to use at any time. All lessons are prepped, easy to use, and are linked to state standards. This type of authentic hands-on learning is key to a high-quality educational experience and aligns well with the sheltered instruction. Sorry, Liza. The Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol, or SIOP, that LPS is currently implementing at all levels. I'm very thankful for the gardens at McMahon and the opportunities they bring to students.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. Thank you guys for your service. I just want to start with that. I know it can be a thankless task sometimes. And superintendent, I hear you was every morning on my bus running or not running. My Melissa, I have 3 students at McMahon. And I know people have talked about a lot of the benefits of the garden, but in my professional life, I'm a clinician and I work with young children. And I'm also a foster and adoptive parent. So 2 of my students are in the day treatment program because of extensive trauma histories and ADHD and all the other pieces. So I really look at this as, schools aren't maybe designed to provide mental health, but they do. And particularly with the day treatment program being at McMahon, I see the garden as essential for children who maybe think differently or learn differently. And the garden really provides that space to explore and look at things, learn in a different way outside of the classroom. And I just see how vital that is to build self-esteem and confidence. And yes, all the things they talked about with academia, that's all true too. But I just know McMahon has some students that are really struggling in that element. And I think the garden is such a big part of that, supporting those folks. And also you have a lot of apartment dwellers attending McMahon who don't have that chance to get out. So when we think about land justice and all of that and the access to that, I feel really strongly about the school being a gateway to that. I think that's mostly what I wanted to say. Just obviously I'm in favor of it and I hope you guys consider funding it. Thanks so much.
All right, let's see if we wake back up here. Cool. Thank you. Thank you 3 for speaking to that. To close, just what's next for us. We are making a plan with Charlotte for a smooth transition and to continue programming at McMahon in perpetuity, hopefully. And we're excited about that. And that will allow Food Corps and St. Mary's to start working with other schools in our district. Geiger and Farwell, of course, top of our list. And yeah, I would just love to hear from you all. Any comments or questions, feedback, anything you would like to see happen in this program, or if there are ways you think we could further the goals that you have for our schools and our students through the garden work. I'm all ears. Yeah, thank you so much.
Ms. Hurd.
Thank you. So most of you already know I am a McMahon mom. So I am highly in favor of this program, and I am sad that you're leaving. So something I would like to see happen is for you to stay. I want to keep you all to ourselves. But I just have to say that I have 2 children at McMahon. One of them is in pre-K, and I feel like sometimes pre-K doesn't always get as many options as the rest of the students. They don't get to go to have gym or STEM or library, anything like that. And just the fact that they are also being included is really great. And it's not just gardening, you're creating relationships with them. My daughter came home the other day and said you went on a scavenger hunt outside and you looked for like animal poop, and I'm just not to get too signs of animals, but they definitely fixated. But it's just a relationship with these students as someone that they feel comfortable with, that they can talk to, and that they have a relationship with, which is really important. And my oldest, who is in first grade, I do have to say, when we were talking the other day about what your favorite things are at school, I assumed it would be gym or recess, but his favorite is STEM, so which is really great. And he's excited. I told him he's going to have something cool that he'll be able to look at this week. So he's excited for STEM. But I do think that it's really great, and I can't say enough good things about it. And I hope that we can continue it, and anything that you need from me or from the committee or from PTO, I'm happy to help. And again, we're sad to see you leave.
Thank you.
Ms. Scott.
Thank you. So I'm a crazy plant garden lady, like literally. I just got my master gardener's degree 2 years ago during COVID. And one of the things that really affected me on what you presented was reach every child in Lewiston. To me, that is huge. Mm-hmm. So I also not only have a huge garden in my own backyard, but I take care of Jaden's garden in Sunnyside Park, and I also plant and bring seedlings over to Tree Street. And I would really like to see us grow this more. It needs to be, in my opinion, in every single school. I also think that what's really important here is these kids are bringing this information home to parents. And I would like to see us work on possibly container gardens at home. It was mentioned a lot of apartment dwellers. I started gardening in containers on my porch. And I run a Facebook page that talks about gardening in the city of Lewiston. And that's one of the things I really talk about is container gardening and how we can really grow gardens without having the room to grow gardens on. So if we can work on that, and like Ms. Hurd said, anything you ask, because this is like my thing. And I think it's true. It does raise the levels of serotonin. You put your hands in that dirt, you get out there, and anxiety and everything else you're thinking about, it kind of just slips away and you're focused on the garden. So great work, and continue and bring more stuff to us because this is awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments?
Just to add quickly, Food Corps has kept us in the loop about the timing and the expiry and we're graduating of funding. So we already have this on our radar to support it at McMahon. And if there's some potential for some funding at other schools, but as mentioned, Barlow and Geiger don't have this level of support for some of their activities. Obviously, I think everyone here is a big supporter of that. So it's something that we've added to the budget that you'll see in about a month or so.
Thank you. Thank you both, or thank you all. The next agenda item is to receive and potentially vote on a field trip request to tour the Freedom Trail in Boston.
I believe Travis Shelbert, Assistant Principal at Connors is here to talk about that. I just called you Assistant Superintendent, Travis.
I mean, are you looking to move elsewhere?
It's just habit.
Thank you everyone for your time. We put a proposal in front of 4th grade students. So as part of the writing reading curriculum, part of the studies is the American Revolution. So we thought it would be a neat idea to be able to bring them down to Boston and link up with a company that can help us take a tour of the Freedom Trail, learn more about the Boston Tea Party, and see some historic sites while we're down there. And again, I know everyone probably says the same thing, but for a lot of our kids, these are opportunities that they don't otherwise have. Many of our students don't explore too far outside of Lewiston, so the thought of bringing them down to Boston and really getting some real life experience into what they're learning is something I feel like is important and they would appreciate.
Any questions or comments? Ms. Bowden and then Ms. Scott.
Thank you. I think this trip is wonderful. My daughter did this when she was in 6th grade, not 4th grade. But one of the questions that I have is surrounding lunch. Will you guys be providing lunch? I know when I chaperoned with the 6th grade class, they kind of did their own thing and ran around. Is it Federal Hall? Is that what it's called? And bought whatever they wanted and ate. So I was just kind of curious what your plan was for lunch for these kids.
Yeah, so we already talked to Peter, our kitchen manager, and discussed taking lunches with us and traveling down. And we linked up with the company that we're talking about, the tour company. They provide us with a couple of different spots where we can just stop either before, we'd probably eat before we started the tour. So just kind of a picnic style with our kids, bring it down. It also helps to save costs and that we don't have kids kind of all over the place because, like I said, they are in 4th grade. So it's a little bit of a younger group that's going.
Thank you. So honestly, I looked at this agenda and the first two things I went, whoa, this is my favorite stuff to talk about. So Freedom Trail, first off, my husband helped relay that as a restoration mason down in Boston, a lot of those plaques and stuff down there. This is a big deal for me also. I love the Freedom Trail. I hope that not only do they get to enjoy everything on there, but I recommend having them, especially at Bunker Hill, taking a look at some of the architecture around there and the houses. I mean, it is the history of our country. This is where it all started. And this is a wonderful thing. And I hope all of our kids get to go on something like this because I've done it 7 times by myself because I love it that much. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I just wanted to add, I was in Boston this weekend and got to see the Martin Luther King monument that was just put up in Boston Common, and it is amazing. I'd seen pictures, so I knew it was going to be beautiful, but seeing it in person and standing there, it is really amazing. And so I hope the kids get a chance, if they can kind of skip over there too, that would be great.
Yeah.
Is there a motion? Ms. Hurd?
I would like to make a motion to approve the field trip request. Do I need any more information than that? This motion.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you everyone so much. I'm sure you'll have a great time.
Agenda item number 8 is to receive and potentially vote on the second reading for policy AC, ACAA, ACAAE, ACAB, ACABR, ACABE, and Assistant Superintendent Paquette will present.
Thank you. So the only question I believe that was asked at our last meeting in regards to these policies was around adding age for the student sexual harassment. So I believe that is ACAA. And I did check with the main school management templates, and age is not included. And the only explanation that I have is that it's not included because of it being students, not for the adults. So I think, Paul, you had asked that question.
Thank you for clarification.
Sure. Everything else, there was no change from our last meeting.
Do we want to vote on these individually or all at once? Does anyone have a preference?
I say all at once.
All at once. Ms. Whitlow?
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of all of these policies.
Thank you. Seconded by Ms. Eames. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Agenda item number 9 to report on the Refugee School Impact Grant, and Ms. McLemore will present.
Good evening. We are sharing some information on the Refugee School Impact Grant. RSIG is the acronym. This is an existing partnership that has been around as long as I can remember with Catholic Charities, Office of Refugee Resettlement. Historically, we have used the grant to fund some summer school opportunities, specifically at the middle school and high school. For students who are eligible. And so these are very specific students. They have to be new to the country, so within the first 5 years, and they have to qualify for refugee resettlement. So it is not a huge number of our multilingual learners. According to Catholic Charities, there's 124 Office of Refugee Resettlement eligible school age students age 0 to 18 in Lewiston. So it's a small number, but it's really to focus on supporting those students specifically and their families and providing them some supplemental supports. So as we this fall started to think about whether or not we were going to continue our partnership and what the focus of that funding would be used for, we tried to think of some creative ways. We're in a really unique position right now. We have a lot of supplemental funding through ESSER and a multilingual learner grant that we recently received. That really is allocated for a lot of those pieces, and knowing that summer school for our SIG eligible students hasn't been as well attended as we would have liked. We had a lot of outreach last year and didn't have a huge number of students that participated. So we wanted to find some creative ways to stay within the means of the grant and continue the partnership in a more impactful way.
knowing that those summer school opportunities would still be continued with some of the other funding sources. So that's when I approached Jen Tyner at Lewiston Adult Ed to see if we could develop some classes or courses or workshops for some of our new families. One thing we hear a lot is the want to increase student engagement, family engagement. Specifically from our multilingual learners. And we thought that this could be a really great opportunity to focus really on some of our newest learners and some of our SIG eligible families. So with that, we came up with the idea to host these workshops and courses and use it as an opportunity to teach families about the American school system and specifically about the Lewiston public school system. Make sure they know their rights, they know how to navigate systems like Power School, they know how to ask for an interpreter, they know how to read a report card or reach out to their teacher to ask questions. We also have volunteered Superintendent Langless to come in and do some work. So I think it'll be a really great opportunity for us to partner with Adult Ed, utilize some frameworks that are already in place and provide some of this funding to that to hopefully improve some of the family engagement and provide some much needed support for our families, which will in turn help the RSIG eligible students. Jen's here. I don't know if you want to add anything else or if anybody has any questions.
Member Scott.
Just a comment. I think this is wonderful. I think that that's something that we absolutely need. There may only be 124 students, but it's really important that the parents understand. And I think that's something that we've had a complete gap in for many years now. They don't understand the school department, everything about it. Yeah. So I'm really appreciative of you doing this. Thank you.
Yeah, and to add on to that, one thing that Jen and I talked about was although this funding can only pay for our SIG eligible families, we want to open it up to our families, specifically multilingual and new Mainer families. We have a lot of newcomer families who do not qualify for this funding, but we don't want to limit their involvement. So we're talking with Adult Ed about how we can kind of braid funding and make sure that that opportunity is available to everybody.
Member Eames. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. Go, rah, rah. I am curious about how the children, so Adult Ed is involved, families are getting engaged. What would the children be doing?
So this is kind of a first step, if you will. We wanted to get creative and also keep in mind our capacity and wanting to start small and expand. So the goal is for students to see some of this improvement. And so through some of the workshops, teaching families how to support their children at home, hopefully we'll transfer some of those skills. And then if all goes well, hopefully this is something we can sustain and continue to apply for annually, but we'll be able to expand it further to include more direct student support. But like I said, there will still be opportunities for summer school. We're not taking away any of those opportunities. We just wanted to be really mindful with how we're using the funding, knowing that there are other supplemental funds available in the short term.
Any other questions or comments?
So I just want to say publicly thank you to Liza and her team for looking at ways to be more creative, to have that year-round support for things. Also kind of not in front of you right at the moment, but Liza's also been looking again with her team, Christina and others, at the service we provide during the school year and then pay in the summer programming. And then those folks are not compensating the gaps in between. So we're trying to find out the cost differential to have just people be year round. So that community support is not just during summer programming and during the school year, but for the gaps in between that are critical, like when school's about to start and we're trying to get communication out to folks. So those kinds of things that we're really trying to take that analytical look. And with Liza as the director now, we're seeing some things that we didn't have our eyes on before. So thank you for that.
Does this need a vote? Oh, no, it does not. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 10, to update and request regarding, I don't know what that means. Rooted staffing, go ahead.
It was to update you, but also to make a request. So you all voted prior to start this pilot that's called Rooted, using unspent funds from the current year, just to see what this could do. Not new positions that are being pushed into the budget, but a pilot. And so what we're finding in the Rooted approach, so these are students who have either been expelled or for some other purpose can't be in the typical school setting. It's off school grounds, so it meets certain criteria. But it also helps us track students, make sure they don't just get lost in the shuffle because of a poor choice or because of some other situation that they can't control. And we're finding that this approach is working really well. But we also know that we have numerous interventions, if that comes across right, that we need more staffing to try to support this. And so what we'd like to do is use, again, unused funds, working with this pilot to grow the capacity to serve more students in this way because of, well, whether it's disciplinary hearings, because we have expelled a number of students this year, or other, again, unique situations where students just don't have that place to go. In the past, we would do our best to track them and keep them engaged. This really forces that, which I think is appropriate and necessary to get kids back to school and keep them connected to their education. So the update is it's working really well, but the request is to use, again, funds that are unspent from the current fiscal year to better staff it from now through the end of the year. I'll be bringing these things up during the budget season, but I want to be sure that I'm clear to especially folks at home. We are not asking for new positions to be approved tonight. That did not go through the budget process. We're asking to use unspent funds from open positions to fund something in the meantime before we get to the budget process. And also take any questions you might have about Rooted and how things are going with that.
Member,
Can you clarify what you just said? You said you're not asking for a new position, but to have a new position in the meantime. Okay, I'm not.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. So sometimes we come to you and we say, we really need this position, and we ask you to approve a position. And I think that's a different approach, because that is more of a solidified process by which we are adding something to a budget that wasn't appropriated, if that makes sense, where this is using unspent funds. If we were in a typical year, better staffed, if we didn't have such a labor crunch, we wouldn't be able to ask this. We wouldn't have the financial resources to do so typically, maybe sometimes. But where there's so many unfilled positions, I think we can do this in the temporary, bring something back to you for a full cycle of proposing to you if it gets to this budget process, and then having it approved, maybe adding. But I guess I just want to differentiate between the two. And that we're using unspent funds for this in the meantime part of the pilot versus saying we want to add this position and we're seeking your approval to make a new role that we would carry forward in the budget.
does that answer your question?
I'm still completely lost.
So this is just sort of a temporary funding reallocation that we're doing now, as opposed to a permanently reassigning money to a permanent position that would be indefinite.
Right.
Does that clarify?
So, but we're anticipating that this position will carry over once we've created the budget and put it in the budget.
I think seeing the effects of what this effort is doing is something that I would like to maintain in the next budget. But I would bring that to you with numbers and the specific details, so that it'd be something that you would choose at this level to add to the budget as proposed, or to do something different with it.
Ms. Eames, Member Eames.
Thank you. My question is, do we know who this will be? We have the labor shortage. Do we actually have an idea of who's going to be doing this? Thank you.
We've had some express interest, but until if we get this approval, we'll post it and see who applies. I will be being protective of current staff and current roles. We can't afford to lose people. But there may be some others who are not connected to the school specifically that may be interested. But we'll have to be smart about the process, but it will be posted.
Member Bowden.
Thank you. I guess I just have a couple quick questions regarding the estimated cost. So I'm seeing 20,000 for a teacher role and 10,000 for an ed tech role, which seems very low. So I'm assuming this would be a part-time position. And then I was wondering about, are we offering benefits with this salary? Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I don't see it as being a full-time role to the extent like our typical ed techs and our typical teachers. And also because we're already in January, we still have to post this, go through a cycle to actually hire it. I figure between then and the end of the year, those would be my estimates for cost. Could they take benefits? It's prorated now with the new contract, so they could. And those costs would be in there. Yeah.
Anyone else? Member Hurd.
Thank you. So I'm just going to play devil's advocate here for just one quick second. And don't get me wrong, I am 100% on board for Rooted and what it's doing for our students. That's being in high school or the middle school is just not their thing. It doesn't work for them. And I completely understand that. And I'm not trying to discredit that by any means, but I'm just wondering if this unused money could be spent in other areas. Like we're having a very hard time with our bathroom situation at the high school, with hall monitors, with those types of situations. And again, not to discredit what the Rooted program is doing, but I also see that there's a need for a larger population, maybe at the high school, at the middle school, of students that are being affected. And so that's just my only concern. Like, again, not to say anything towards Rooted, but that is a very small population compared to a bigger population that we have, again, like I said, at the high school or the middle school. And where we haven't come up with any solutions for the bathroom situation and stuff like that, I just want to make sure we're being conscious of we're trying to help as many students as we can as a whole. And that's just only my concern. And again, I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here. I'm not saying that I don't think that we should do this, because I think that it's a great program. I think we've seen that we're at an all-time high for expulsions this year. And I do think that the students that have come back to us after being a part of the Rooted program, we're seeing great things, and we are seeing really good things coming out of there. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud, I guess.
No, I think that point's well taken. We do have some visits set up for the high school to look at some bathroom related things. But one of the things that's on a list of notes that I have from conversation we've had on this side of the table, I don't think we're going to bring it to you yet, is potentially more staffing for things like restroom monitors and whatnot.
Member Scott.
Thank you. And just to kind of a reminder, so our expelled students, we have to provide educational services for our expelled students. And we don't really have anything to provide educational services for our expelled students outside of this particular program at this point. We used to have the Dingley School and we used to have some other things, but we do still have to provide that. So I hear what you're saying, but I want to remember that we do have to provide those services, and we have had a number of expulsions this year. And it's important that those students still get their education. Whether they get in trouble or not, they have to get educated, and they need to. Yeah.
Anyone else? Did you have anything to wrap up?
Is there a motion to?
Is there a motion
approve?
To approve the reallocation of the funds to the Rooted program?
On it, so that's why
I'll propose the motion to approve this reallocation.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Second that motion.
Any further discussion? Member Whitlow.
I just want to make sure that we're not doing something that we're not supposed to be doing, because it doesn't say that there is a possible vote there. It says request.
On the rationale, there is a vote. There's a motion to vote on the rationale that we have.
It's not on the agenda. So I'm okay with it, but I just want to make sure that
It's just word on the
This
agenda.
committee has been very clear that we're not gonna make any votes and motions unless it's on the agenda.
I can bring it back.
Does anyone have any thoughts on that? To clarify, the one where there's a vote, it usually says and potentially vote on, but on this one, it just says to update and request. And it doesn't mention the vote on the agenda. It's on the rationale, but not on the public agenda. So I don't know how everyone feels about that. Ms. Bowden,
I guess I would just make a motion to table that until he can come back with a request on the agenda for us.
is everyone else okay with that?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, all right, perfect. We will move on then. Agenda item number 11, to appoint assignments for the school committee subcommittee meeting, subcommittees. And Superintendent Langless will present.
So really, this was to have a discussion around everybody's lives have kind of shifted and we get busy with other projects or other interests. And so wanted to go through and see who was interested in being on which standing subcommittees and just have a discussion about that. So we can just walk through them if we want.
It's in everyone's packets.
Yeah.
So if you want to see what you're assigned to currently.
Is there a limit to how, is there a normal?
So I think typically there's
And-
2 or 3 people per committee, and I think that, well, I don't think, but if we approach quorum is what we would back off. So, but a quorum is 5, so we could have up to 4 within rule. And again, typically it's 2 or 3, but sometimes things are more interesting to some than others. So
And once upon a time, it was in our procedural rules that we all had to be on at least 2 subcommittees, but I don't believe that still exists. I think some people are doing a lot other than just the school committee, and that's a lot. Does anyone want to? I know Ms. Whitlow was saying that you don't necessarily want to continue with your assignments. Do you?
Yeah, correct. Negotiations I love and I want to stay with that. And that is, that's a lot of work. And I still want to be on the dyslexia ad hoc committee if we decide to still have that. That's not we haven't had a lot of motion, a lot of meetings and things, but I'd like to start putting more energy into that. So if that's something that the school board wants to continue with, that would be great.
Member Scott?
Thank you. So I would definitely like to continue in finance and facilities. My name's on policy. I've not been to one policy meeting, and so I didn't consider myself on that committee, and so I think that should be removed off of there. And I'd also like to make a suggestion that we have we do have legislative liaison, perfect. So I want to talk about that, make sure that we have somebody doing that, because I think that we've got a lot of, there's a lot of pieces of legislation on the ballot this year, so.
Member Bowden?
Yeah, so I love negotiations. That was really great. I'd like to stay on that. I'm happy on finance. I am currently the legislation liaison, and Ms. Eames has come to me and asked if she could take that role, and I'm fine with that. She's done a lot of research. She's really into it. I'm indifferent anyway, so she is more than welcome to take that piece over.
Thank you, I think.
So I love the ad hoc committees that I'm on, so I'm good with everything that I have. I guess I will give up the legislation piece to Elizabeth.
Member Bobola?
Yes, thank you. Currently, I'm on the chair of the curriculum committee, and I would like to carry the load a little bit more and add another committee representation to it. I have to stay away from negotiations, being a former teacher, and I'd give away the farm. Finance, I still have trouble balancing my checkbook. The zeros bother me, but I would like to join facilities.
Are you writing all these down? Because I can't keep up. Okay, good. Go ahead. Anyone
Right.
else? Ms. Eames, member Eames?
I am happy with my assignments. I'm on policy. And last meeting I volunteered to be chair. I don't know if, how that happens, like, is that enough? And I'm also on curriculum. I'm happy to be there. I am on pathways and I'm happy to be there. And now I'm legislative liaison, I think.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so.
that.
So. It's a lot, but I'm looking forward to it.
I think that anybody who's retired has to be on all of them. All of them.
Well, that's why I asked him earlier.
And the poverty committee hasn't really reformulated after, that was something that had been started by Mayor Kayer. And then when he was no longer mayor, we kind of took it back to the school department and then it hasn't really gone anywhere. So I don't know if, is Bill here? I don't know if that's something that we want to like start back up or what we want to do with that.
I would say that would be pathways.
The Pathways Subcommittee, is that a subcommittee right now?
Yes.
I think that the Pathways Subcommittee is actually covering a lot of the topics that came out of the poverty report, so.
Okay, so we can kind of take the poverty subcommittee off of there. Okay, thank you. Ms. Padina?
Yeah, and I was gonna actually ask about the poverty committee, but since it's already with the pathways, I'm already on that, so I'd like to stay there. And I'm on curriculum, and I don't know if anybody else thinks I should be somewhere else, but if not, I'm fine with that, so.
Is there anything else you're interested in doing? Do you have time to do any more than you're already doing? Okay, good. Ms. Hurd.
Thank you. I am on curriculum and I would be happy to stay there. I would be interested in the pathways committee if there is room. I didn't know what number we're supposed to be at. Okay, gotcha.
I'm not on it anymore.
Oh, you're not?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't get that in everything that you said.
Yeah,
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, good. All right, so there's spots on there.
Yes.
Sorry.
So I would like to be, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I'm with negotiations and facilities, I'm good with that, so.
Okay.
I think that, other than that, I think that's where I can maybe provide the most assistance at the moment, so. I'll stay there where I am.
And then the 6, 7, 8 concept, are we doing anything with that?
So we have kind of a LCIP request in with that, correct? Or will be?
We have one on the documentation,
Yeah.
it's pushed out a year.
Yeah.
Just given the climate of things, but there's a multi-year request, at $18 million. That is again pushed out, so it wouldn't be for next fiscal year, the request is for the following fiscal year. And this would be to look at that 6, 7, 8 concept, potential office space and just that innovative learning piece that we've talked about. The subcommittee hasn't met in a while. I think the pathways conversation has been rich. A lot of these overlap, but so I guess we could convene it to start talking about things. The hard thing is, the cart of the horse kind of approach of we don't have funding, we don't have a property, so part of that funding request was to do some concept planning, similar to what the city did for PD, and look at different opportunities, some buildings that might exist, and different structures around that, so. I think we can leave it as a committee. I don't know that we meet all that frequently at this point in time until we have an idea on funding, and that's okay with the committee.
Say that again. Oh, I'm on policy, was poverty, but we haven't been meeting, and then the public health committee. And apparently I'm on the 6, 7, 8 concept, but we haven't met in a while either, but I was just reappointed to the public health committee at city council within the last month, few weeks, couple weeks. And I'm fine with all of that. Are there any like ad hoc committees that we should discuss adding, or are we good with what we have? All right, Everybody seems to think we're good.
I was gonna say, should we have one for bathrooms?
You just have a visit coming up, so decide after that visit. Member Hirsch.
Thank you. I was wondering, we had talked a lot about, member Scott had talked about getting parents involved and like, how do we get them more involved? And PTO, I don't think is a great way to get them involved. Not a lot of parents really do attend the PTO meeting, so I didn't know if like a parent ad hoc committee, something just to get our like parents more involved, how they can like come together, meet, like, I don't know.
I think a parent engagement committee would be a great idea. I don't know how many people would support that but I think that would be a wonderful idea. Member Scott?
You know, I think that would be a fantastic idea. And I think that, you know, if we get some of our, the immigrant resource, centers, some of the other folks, talk to the PTOs maybe first to see if they can send a representative for their school. Maybe we can get a parent representative from each school, that kind of thing, and then build around that. It may not be a committee, it could be an ad hoc committee, and something that stays regular, but something to build so that we can push that communication and make sure that we're getting and start talking about some of the things that we've been talking about on this level with the parents. I think that's a fantastic idea.
I was just thinking today, actually, we don't have, since the pandemic, we haven't had like or maybe it was stopped when Longley merged, but like the chili chowder cook-off and different things, community events like that, that really did bring in a lot of parent engagement. And so I don't know if that could be part of like a parent engagement committee, but getting some of those community-based activities back that help bring people into the schools. I think that would be wonderful. Is that something we have to vote on to create a committee?
No, I think if it's ad hoc, it's just kind of we can. I would like to read these back though to make sure I have things accurate, if that's okay. So 6, 7, 8 concept, I have Megan Parks and Janet. Was there somebody else on that? Okay, and then for negotiations, Tanya, Janet, and Bruce. Facilities, Bruce, Linda, and Paul. Finance, Linda and Janet. The ad hoc dyslexia, Tanya, was there someone else that wanted to be a part of that?
No, but well, if anybody wanted, but I don't think anybody has any passion for that.
Okay. Policy, right now I have Elizabeth, and I wasn't sure if others were going to continue to be part of that. So Megan. And pathways, we have Janet, Elizabeth, Ashley, and Megan Hurd. Curriculum, we have Paul, Elizabeth, Ashley, and Megan Hurd. Elizabeth as our legislative liaison, and for the ad hoc parent engagement subcommittee, were there members that want to participate in that? Megan.
Linda? Yeah.
Right. You want to do that too? I think that we should have a conversation around that, yeah, and see where we go. My plate's kind of full right now, so I'm not sure if I can do too many, but I'd like to be, you know, there initially and see where we can go and build upon it. So,
Okay.
Okay.
So, and Megan Hurd?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will do the parent one and I won't do the pathways.
Okay.
Thank you.
How often is the Pathways Committee meeting?
Yeah, once every few weeks or a month. We've actually had some
It's
productive
been
meetings.
consistent.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
I don't know if I have time for something consistent.
All right. I don't know that that requires any action other than what we just did. If you're good with the list, we'll get it typed up and share a copy back.
And you're listed as the parliamentarian. Do you want to continue to be listed as?
I think we discussed at the beginning of the year, right, that that wasn't something that was necessary. I felt that that's what Bruce had said at the beginning, and we have a big enough knowledge here that if something happens, and we've got a couple of books that are here with us every meeting, so we can come up with something.
Okay. All right, is everyone good with all of that? Okay, agenda item number 12 is a report from school committee chair. I think this kind of ties in with the community announcement, but I'll do it now. Joshua Hughes, who works for Tree Street with our youth at Tree Street, also does productions, theater productions, and he is doing a production of Moses at the Merrill Auditorium in February. And he has gotten together some volunteers and some donations to bring busloads of students and parents from Lewiston down to free showings of that. And so he had spoken to me about making an announcement about that. And I think that's a great opportunity for our parents and students here in Lewiston. It's the second week of February 10th through the 12th, I believe. I'd have to double check on the exact dates, but he's sending 3 buses to bring community members from Lewiston, students and parents to the show for free. Other than that, I have no update report from the chair. Agenda item 13 is report from the superintendent.
All right, I actually had subcommittees on here, which we just talked about, so we're all set. And the year-round positions, we're bringing more information. I snuck it in when Liza was here because it was relevant, but I do think that that's something from a community outreach and a community, a parent engagement piece. I actually don't know that there'll be a difference in cost because of the way we've been paying people. But it will allow for them to be compensated year round and potentially with benefits. We provide you an email today about there was a water leak in one of our modulars, and upon going into check on that inside the wall, they found some mold spores and have had that tested. And so we've got people out of there for now. So Pro can come in and clean that up thoroughly and make sure that that space is good to go for folks. Let's see here. Is the became an item. So I will wait till item 19. That's it for me.
Number 14, report from city council rep.
Thank you. We did have a city council meeting on January 17th. We had some stuff scheduled last week. We were able to do an executive session last week, but most everything in this meeting was canceled and moved to this week. So we double booked on everything. We had several special amusement permits issued. We finished up the second reading of several items that are related to code of ordinance, zoning and land use. And we had appointments to various city boards and committees. There wasn't a lot on the agenda outside of that zoning stuff, which took up a big chunk of the agenda. I would like to also shout out that I recognize Mr. and Mrs. Drew from Drew's Animals, and that they are looking to expand their business to a bigger facility. And I'm actually meeting with a group of community members tomorrow night. Oh, excuse me, today's Wednesday night. And I told you I was double booked. Wednesday night to look at new places and start a board for them so they could become a 501c and be a nonprofit and really become like I said last week, the museum, the Natural History Museum of Lewiston, which I think is amazing. The Youth Advisory Council is working on a new project. They were extremely successful with the Be Kind to Your Mind project, and had a wonderful interview with News Channel 6, and that got a lot of social media stuff, and these kids are pretty amazing. The new project they're working on, and this is just in the beginning stages, is going to be diversity of the many cultures here in Lewiston. They're looking to have high school students lead the charge, talking about who their family is and where they come from. Everybody from French Canadian to Northern Africa to India, wherever it is, all of the cultures and all of the different ethnicities here in Lewiston, which is a challenge as far as I'm concerned, but I think it's a good challenge for them. And they're actually meeting Wednesday evening as well. They're going to be meeting with the city's Equity and Diversity Director, Melissa Hugh, which I thought was a good way to start off so that she can give them a little guidance and has a better understanding of the whole picture around the community. So, and I've got something with future item, but that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 15 would be a report from our student rep who is absent tonight. 16 updates from school committee subcommittees. Has anyone met since our last meeting?
Facilities had a meet. It was more of a review and a discussion of the LCIP. It brought a couple of things. We've got a couple of different projects in play. One is a grant that we're hoping to get to help with the project at the high school. And we got 2 or 3 things in the works, but nothing that's really finalized yet. But it was some of that falls under the LCIP and some of it falls under facilities. But it was there's some progress.
Member Bone?
Yeah, I guess we did actually meet. The finance committee met. And again, we got the LCIP binder and kind of looked through that. We also discussed the store next door and some of the things that were brought up at the podium last time in regards to that. So we have another one scheduled in a couple weeks.
Member Beaumont?
Thank you. The curriculum committee will be meeting this coming Monday, our second episode with math, and we'll report out on it in the future meeting.
Great, thank you. Member Hurd?
Thank you. Karen, are we rescheduling our meeting that was canceled on Monday?
Well, I haven't had a chance to do that yet. But yes, that is the plan to reschedule.
Member Whitlow?
For negotiations, we have like a subcommittee off of that to look at stipends. So we just met this week again. What do we do? A survey to see what teachers, what schools and teachers have for stipends, and kind of trying to get an idea of, you know, how many hours they're working and how often they're meeting, and just so that we can really reevaluate the stipends, I guess, and make sure that we're paying them what they should be paid. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Agenda item 17, school committee community announcements. Member Bowden?
Thanks. I have a couple. First, I'll start by saying that just, you know, as a community announcement, so everybody knows, there are a few of us that are scheduled to go walk through Lewiston High School Wednesday morning to take a look at the bathroom situation with the principal. So that is coming up Wednesday morning. And I also wanted to talk about, you know, this is new to me. So there is the final basketball game of the season for Lewiston High School is going to be Edward Little, big rivalry game. It is also coincidentally the very last games that they will have in the gym. And they're making a really big deal about it, which, you know, rightfully so. They're going to have a lot there. It's going to be crazy. And because of how big an event this is going to be, there's going to be wristbands for sale ahead of time. So I kind of want to make this community announcement so everybody knows if you plan on going to that game, Lewiston gets a limited number of wristbands. And they will be offered to the players and the family of the players first and foremost. And then the general sale for these wristbands will start February 6th through February 9th. And they'll be for sale at school. I'm not sure how Mr. Fuller is doing that at the school. I don't know if it's at lunch. I don't know if you just go to him and ask and you can buy them. Not really sure on his plan on that, but I do know the dates that you can purchase the wristbands are February 6th through February 9th. And again, you have to have that prior to going to the game or else you will not be let in because there's a limited number of seats. That's your ticket. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a boys and a girls varsity game in one night, plus a round, plus it's just going to be a big deal. So I just wanted to put that out there for the community. If you plan on going to that, purchase your wristband.
Member Scott?
Thank you. Well, that's what I wanted to ask a little bit about that. So can we find out from Mr. Fuller how that's going to happen? Because I'll make an announcement at the city council meeting as well, because if we want to fill those seats, if this is a big thing, I understand, you know, seats, because this is like battle of the bridges as far as I'm concerned. It's yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other community announcements? Oh, yeah, Member Whitlow, sorry.
Yes, the Green Ladle has started back up their lunches this week, right? Was it this week? So is it Thursdays and Fridays? I don't know what time. Is it like from 11 to 1 or something like that? But definitely support the support the Green Ladle and the public, it's open to the public to have lunch. So bring your families, bring your friends, bring your neighbors.
I came last Friday. The seating was at 11. And it's appetizers, soups, breads, a meal, dessert, you name it. And you can pay with a card now, which is nice. So you can come in, enjoy the experience and pay on your way out. And yeah, hopefully people can get in. Students really learn a lot in those events, from not just preparation, but also the service aspect.
You have to make a reservation.
Yeah, if you go to the Green Little page, that's where all the information will be, and they blast things out pretty regularly. It is, you do need a reservation. And I would advise you to get here early because parking is really tight.
I just wondered if anybody wanted to go this week, Thursday or Friday, because I'd like to go, but I don't want to go by myself. So
We'll arrange that after the meeting, I think. Agenda item number 18, future agenda items. Ms. Scott?
I just wanted to reiterate what Member Bowden had said about the visit to the high school. So myself, Ms. Whitlow, and Ms. Bowden, we all received an email from Principal Radke, and I know we all want to go, and I think it's important that we all get the opportunity to go, but we don't want to make a public spectacle. We also don't want this to be a public meeting if we have more than 4 members. So I think what would be good is that we'll go, we'll probably can, since we have another school committee meeting next Monday, one of us can do a report out on our visit. And then I think that there should be scheduled another visit with other members so that everybody gets the opportunity to walk through and see, and then we can have a discussion on the situation after that. So we're sure to have that discussion. That's it. Thank you.
Member Bowden?
Thank you. I don't know if this is a future agenda item. But I'm just gonna throw it out there. So I was speaking to somebody at the high school who works with our special ed. And she kind of made a request about uniforms for Special Olympics for our students. I don't really know what goes into that. I don't know what monetary amount she's looking for. But it was brought up to me, so I wanted to bring it up because I think, you know, if we can help, then I'd love to help them. So.
Anyone else? Nope. Agenda item number 19, to discuss a date for our winter retreat.
So I've been looking at the calendar and oh my, we're staying busy and, you know, and committees are starting to come back up. So we were looking for something in an evening, and I know that we have been trying to carve out Wednesdays for disciplinary hearings and whatnot. So I really want to just bounce some dates around to see if people wanted to commit to a retreat date. I don't have any set plans. You have shared, I think, a number of agenda items with me already. But I was looking at as early as next Wednesday, which would be the 8th. Oh, you'll be away. That's right. You come back on the 10th, is it? 9th. We could look at Wednesday, the 15th of February.
I have a policy meeting and a Trinity board meeting.
Okay. We do not have a meeting on Monday, the 13th of February. We could do that on a Monday night if unless there's conflicts. I'd like for everyone to be able to make it. So if you have any conflicts on the 13th, we would try to avoid that.
Is there anyone that can't do the 13th? Monday, the 13th?
Right now I can.
Seems like the best option.
Okay, so I'll look into space for Monday, the 13th. And I'll see if we can do something here. Yeah, I would think, yeah. Have a working dinner kind of approach and yep.
About what time do you think? Same time we normally?
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just,
13th?
yes. just to back up a little, sorry, I forgot until I opened my calendar, for future agenda items. Officer Philippon had a conversation in the community. He did a presentation at the school. It was something tied to the school. And he got a lot of feedback from the students that the cell phone policy at the high school has been really effective in reducing a lot of the discipline issues that were in the past. And I wanted to propose a future agenda item where we talk about making that policy district-wide instead of just at different schools, making one universal policy district-wide. And that was a conversation I had with him about potentially doing that because of the positive impacts of that policy from the students' report. Yes. Ms. Scott.
That was from the Be Kind to Your Mind. And it was when he did
something after we had that group forum.
Yeah, and he brought it up because he met with students that have been, some of them had been expelled, or I can't remember exactly what the program was right now off the top of my head, unfortunately. And it was the students that brought up to him, they were 8th grade students that said that they felt that the policy that we put in place at the beginning of the year was effective, and they wished that we would follow through with that for when they go to high school next year.
Gotcha.
And so this was coming from the students, not from parents or anything. They felt that the policy was working and that they noticed a difference themselves. And could we have a further discussion on that?
It took the burden off of the students by having a rule, a policy that they had to follow. It took that burden off of the students, and they'd like to see that continue.
Because the middle school is more strict than the high school. So to review maybe just the whole thing in general. Okay.
Thank you, Linda, for filling in those pieces. It was a while ago that I had the conversation with him, and the meeting's been rescheduled, so I forgot some of the details, but thank you. Agenda item number 20, to enter into executive session on a legal matter in accordance with 1 MRSA 4056E. Member Roden?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to go into executive session.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.